press conference for Palau and the U.S. Coast Guard. It's another fun and exciting day for all of us in this continued partnership. I'm going to introduce real quick our guests, our special guests from the U.S. Coast Guard. U.S. Coast Guard Captain Jessica Wurst and Lieutenant Chelsea Garcia are with us today, along with Ambassador Aaron Drake. Thank you, Ambassador, for joining us. And on the with the President, we have Director Alot with the Bureau of Public Safety, and DMLE Chief Dambir Mirbir. And then, of course, our National Security Coordinator, Jennifer Anson, is with us as well this morning. So without further ado, let's go ahead and give the floor to President Whips to give his welcoming remarks.
Okay, mal putru manuel tutau murabek la adar bela edik tase susa namadu susa bedul maraklai marabul bela ma bilum ediraklai mar masil bela marbek la adar bela ngarang ayangan mur hotcharigi mangana ikra blur bela putru le mal mereng asul la medial ada sem tok activity digom umuknos ilme mesa tial special press conference lang normal southern welcome Mr. Clive from Island Times, Mr. Ngawak, sister oh okay I could have said that okay Sulang live welcome Gida ako trulen tial press conference gido mangila Luram Regal. So I want to recognize Ambassador Joe Ehrenreich and of course his team from the U.S. Coast Guard, Commander Wurst, Commander Cruz, and also Lieutenant, I guess it would be Commander Garcia. You know, this is a joint press conference along with our team from Palau, Director Elobet and Chief Nirablugu, and of course NSC. We are here to really talk about I think the challenges that we face with our ensuring that our EEZ is protected really for the benefit of the Palauan people, but also ensuring that there's no nefarious activities happening. So Palau, first of all, is really appreciative of the collaborative support that we get from the United States, from Australia, from Japan, to provide us with surveillance advisors. They're embedded within the DMLE. And one of the things that we have noticed is that there continues to be, of course, increased IUU activity within our EEZ. And particularly in several places, right along our border, on the western side, and also along the border toward where the high seas pocket is located. The other thing that we've also been noticing is Chinese research vessels that are not invited, that seem to be frequent visitors these days into our EEZ, and they're just coming in unauthorized. In the last 3 years, I think we've seen 4 of those vessels. And just last month, we're so grateful for the U.S. Coast Guard for sending the C-130 that flew over our EEZ and was able to find 100 FADs. So FADs are fish aggregating devices within our EEZ. Madik para di mas modelo seguida amal mereng asulera tra Amerigel mata Shabal ado Australia lo no se orgi dra kla ngel tial debe e clau tu trela adga ngeseu le gdan la mesa btogol الهي لورورا ngod البلو الململ التيال لوغل اكلار جيد متيال هي ادبل بلاو مغدا la mesa ديال ngod البلو مسويس بينغرا اي ادريغل لو مسرا ارادل ادرا سينا ديال سينا المت مور ادبل dimla ka lang atur gid emrula a research sa alse mang tiam nomre kalbuil kadmal mre nga asule la amlu ramligen emle sendra yang ilalbuil le sender sel si wandori still me mata provide a surveillance surveyable tial izirgit emlom tiga vart el FADs fads agel boy elom godong angigel agadar tren al sela tabe yani gidam denga se igal el fad agamla olger angigel ngolger angigel triga sel me lola bo godir dimel maiger rogul mle khirtial tial fa من كلوا تلملل مرا الوغل اقناري غمرا لواسين مال رسل جيدا مال براودنين ادر بلا لواسين تدم لا ولا سانكشواري جيد قال بيبي رابلو دي قالو ون لرشي جيد السانكشواري جيد تدا دري قالو مرا لواسي اتلو لوني تم اي جيد لهم بباق البوي من مور هذا بيت قال يجي لمول تيراقني سيل التوب ده تيرا مول مودرو Dia kalau bilang tu ngara era tapi tengara ikrel omde mai galang kale ta. I mean that's yamal na omudu meng cloud tu tela adomes aigel elngia awai gaigi del mkit romru and most importantly the take action. Matial mlomregal October 7 and more October 11 ya ramaliga tila bodo morte del الموضوع عبارة الكرنسيل بيلا إملو سبع النتيجة لوي ماكلين إمرو إموس التومال لرور أمين من نورا مرا برتاق مدقل لو المول مرتيا كده ليا التال دوموس أيين 15 rounds of ammunition أمقنم بريجي ده المقدري موس إن رور المرا برتاق Litiagi del Gagrel Bascio, en ahí me clepsel el patrol a Marine Law, em le clol kamang al ombro in 752 miles al Uruti. Mang kadabran mereng asule la Coast Guard da Blue Amrigen, tira uno se orgi del itmang, e gida amlo se del el mai, emergo tig emergo error so just want to say that we are truly appreciative of the Coast Guard's efforts to identify these fads and to be able to go out on October 7th through 11th, sink 25 of them. Of course, that requires 15 rounds of ammunition and lots of fuel, but it's part of taking action to deter these types of activities. And hopefully we're able to confiscate some of the gear on board, those to identify where they're coming from and what kind of activities are going on. I did see a photo, I think, over here. Those are these the electronic devices that are installed on those pads? So they're pretty sophisticated fads, and we definitely need to identify who's making these devices and what they're up to. But we're also very appreciative of the fact that we have the shipwriters agreement on board the Coast Guard to be able to board and be partners with the Coast Guard. So hopefully to make more use of that and more Coast Guard vessels visiting our EEZ to help us deter all this illegal activity. So Ambassador Aaron's right. We really appreciate the continued support to really combat the illegal activity within our EEZ. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming down from Guam to join us for the special press conference.
All right, well, thank you, President Whips, and I'd like to just very briefly talk about the context of the U.S.-Palau relationship and how it relates to this issue, and then I'll turn it over to Captain Wirtz to talk about the details of what the Coast Guard is doing. So as President Whips said, in mid-September, as part of our security cooperation, a U.S. Coast Guard C-130 patrolling Palau's exclusive economic zone discovered over 100 fishing aggregator devices, or FADs, in Palau's EEZ. Around the same time, we were holding our semi-annual U.S. Palau Joint Committee meeting, and at the JCM, the two sides discussed the illegal FADs, and at the request of Palau's government, the U.S. agreed to assist Palau in their removal. The U.S. Coast Guard has taken the lead in supporting Palau's National Security Coordinator, Bureau of Public Safety, and DMLE in removing the FADs and more generally assisting Palau to protect its environment and to address illegal fishing. As I said, Captain Wirtz will describe in more detail how we will support maritime law enforcement in Palau.
And,
I want to say, oh, please.
and here's the picture of those devices that we confiscated from the past.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they're sophisticated.
Sophisticated. The people who are placing these know what they're doing. So these FADs and the ships that are illegally benefiting by their placement are a threat to Palau's economy, food security, environment, and respect for the rule of law. In the context of the special and unique U.S.-Palau relationship, we are more than just friends, we are family. We will support Palau consistent with our international agreements, the COFA, the Shipwriter Agreement, the Enhanced Shipwriter Agreement. That includes removing these FADs that were recently discovered, as well as future efforts to eliminate the harmful effects of illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. So with that, let me turn it over to Captain Wirtz to describe U.S. Coast Guard activities.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. President, Mr. Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this event. As was stated, my name is Captain Jeffz, and I actually just took command of Coast Guard Forces Micronesia Sector Guam about 3 weeks ago. But I can assure you, even though I'm new to the job, I am not a stranger to this area. I actually was stationed back in Guam on the Coast Guard cutter Sequoia from 2013 to 2016, and I had the pleasure of making a few port calls in Palau. So I'm definitely not new to the area, but I am honored and excited to be here as one of the U.S. partners that is supporting Palau, our partner that we work really closely with, I will say, really in supporting our shared vision for a peaceful, secure, and prosperous Pacific. As the ambassador mentioned, through the Compact to Free Association and our bilateral maritime law enforcement agreement, the U.S. Coast Guard provides a wide range of support to the government of Palau and bilateral cooperation, including the protection of marine resources, which is what we're really talking about today. One of the ways we provide this is through aerial surveillance. I know Mr. President, Ambassador mentioned the aircraft that we flew last month. We did actually have a Palauan air rider on board, so someone from DMLE rode with us. So we're able to patrol the exclusive economic zone. We documented everything from vessels to these fish aggregating devices that we saw in Palau's EEZ. And then we were able to share that with the government of Palau to enable these enforcement actions. During that patrol, the Coast Guard also supported by sending a few individuals to the local Joint Operations Center. And really, we were working alongside our Palauan family and our Australian partners as well to promote that information sharing and increase capacity within the watch station as well. So in addition to aerial surveillance, I know the President mentioned it, but we routinely embark Palauan law enforcement officers on board our cutters when we're down in this area to patrol Palau's EEZ. And when we embark these shipwriters, we're really increasing the capacity to enforce fisheries regulations, because I know all of us have capacity challenges when it comes to how many ships and aircraft and people we have. So by allowing our Palauan shipwriters to come on board, we can help enforce those regulations, which really promotes economic security and sustainability for the region. So this year, we've actually been able to support Palau with at least 5 different fast response cutter patrols. Those are our smaller cutters you'll see down here. And most recently, we had shipwriters from DMLE embarked last month and again earlier this month as well. So these patrols not only increase capacity by providing additional resources, but we also provide an opportunity for both of our law enforcement officers to work side by side, hand in hand with each other. We share best practices, and collectively we're working to protect our crucial marine resources in the Pacific. So apart from our joint law enforcement efforts, I do need to mention the Coast Guard also works collaboratively with the government of Palau to support a bunch of other programs, including search and rescue, safe boating, and aids to navigation as well. So just this past July, one of our cutters, the Oliver Henry, actually responded to a disabled vessel in distress. And we towed her over 200 miles. I believe it was the Black Pearl 1. We towed her over 200 miles back to Palau. So we were able to assist there, which is a huge success. We've also collaborated on several search and rescue exercises in the last 2 years, including one joint exercise that involved not only Palau and the U.S., but also our partners from the United Kingdom and Japan as well. And that exercise really showcased our ability to operate alongside of each other and our shared commitment to maritime safety, security, and sovereignty in the area. We also assisted at the request of Palau in a Palau-led mass rescue operation, and we send a few folks down from the Coast Guard to help evaluate that exercise and give some pointers and best practices that we've learned over the years. And I will say the crews of our Coast Guard cutters and our teams that always come down are so excited to work alongside our Palauan shipwrights, and they're so excited to engage with the local community as well. Last year, we did host a safe boating workshop in the local communities, and the team discussed safe boating practices. They were able to hand out some safe boating equipment, some whistles, some signal mirrors, so that if our boaters, our fishermen ever were to be in distress, definitely those tools can help for a successful rescue. Our cooperation also spans other areas into aids to navigation, I mentioned. And in 2020, at the government of Palau's request, the Coast Guard cutter Sequoia, which is actually the ship I was stationed on about 10 years ago, was able to come down and rebuild some of the aids to navigation that mark the channel so that vessels can safely transit in and out of port. So I'm so excited to report also that we currently have 3 Palauans at the Coast Guard Academy. So that is such an opportunity to continue our close cooperation. I was also told just this past weekend we had a Palauan enlist in the Coast Guard. Just another example of our shared commitment and cooperation together. So I know our focus today is on law enforcement, but I did want to bring up all of those collaborative efforts that we've been working closely together on and highlight the partnership that the Coast Guard and the U.S. has with Palau. And really to thank you, Mr. President, for sharing in our shared commitment towards ensuring a safe, secure, and prosperous Pacific. So thank you.
Isal local Mr. President Gelsel Skogil Belgum. Under a contract to provide the overhead security tial kanak zone again. Sem le endra sera June em legel lomura October sen edi wadigal start.
Okay. So I think the question is that Sea Dragon? Yeah, so we used to have the Sea Dragon program, and we thank Indo-PACOM for sponsoring that. And the director just wanted an update as to it stopped and is it going to be restarted soon? So Brendan, maybe if you could share.
Absolutely. We'll be coming back next fall.
Let's have the microphone.
So next fall, somewhere around July or August, we should have a return of Sea Dragon for about a year. And then after that, we are looking to transition to a long-range, high-endurance UAV that will be able to fulfill the same function.
So, el programa Sea Dragon na modia, Maria es el momu realmente summer. Ya uri se kadar amor aigel. Ya vamos en drone. Legal, yeah. Legal silding, Dron, probably Mral Tela Capseta, I guess we're adapting to new technology. Yeah? So that's
It's one more one.
oh, okay.
Yeah, one more. Currently, those vessels they have at the marine law, they have 50 cal mount on, but we don't have a 50 cal mount. We don't have 50 caliber, and those are, as far as I see, is very good because they can we can use to destroy those pads. They only take one round to destroy them. Otherwise, we waste a lot of rounds to destroy those things. So if we can find a way to acquire and authorize to use them on, I mean, not for offense, but to destroy the pad, so we don't waste a lot of money on because those are they're very strong and require a big ballistic.
We can look into it.
Okay. Yeah, Sula Director. Thank you, Ambassador. Definitely look into it.
First question I have is how often during the year do you have this shipwrighter exercise?
So in general, it depends. We usually have so the exercises are more of the search and rescue exercises. We generally try to do those about once a year. The shipwrighter agreements where we're bringing shipwriters on board, I had just looked back before I arrived, and I think it was 5 different patrols since about the January timeframe. So it can vary a little bit depending on our availability. Right now, we do have a few of our vessels in a dry dock period, a maintenance period. So it's it's a little bit less than I think it normally would be. But it's all based on requests and how many assets we have available.
Follow up on that. No, actually, follow up on the earlier report. You said that over 100 fats were found, but 25 were destroyed. So what happened to the rest?
Tabungan. Oh,
But that's,
yeah. I guess the 25 regel 100 tabla la tamal. Regel bila de gombi bak. Ngira dal todo el mundo mo si. Di mo mal rogo. So continue overall next el patrol mo si regel maybe.
So based on the equipment that you picked up from the fats, and you mentioned you have pictures of them, can you identify where they're from?
Magadam lang kadam okay. So through a process kadam la confiscate na dar sa mga Coast Guard then mo mesa sa ilang amlar din. You see? Oh, maybe you can share. I said in Palawan that we've confiscated them, those devices that I showed pictures of, turn them over to the Coast Guard to help us identify the sources.
We can certainly look to assist with that. I think a lot of the time the issues are that we're not seeing any identifying marks, I think, on some of these. So it makes it real hard to identify where they're coming from. But certainly we can work through the ambassador and with the equipment and see if it's something we can help with, or there might be another government, U.S. government agency that can help as well.
And what exactly are those devices? What do they do? Like homing devices?
They're tracking devices. They could be a multitude of things. Maybe they're picking up data. We don't know what they're, and I think that's what we need. Maybe more than Coast Guard, somebody to break them apart and figure out what they are. So
we will assist in trying to.
and the U.S. is going to help us on that. And that way, it may involve more than the Coast Guard because it's somebody that can take those devices apart and know what they are. Yeah. but they're attached to the fad. That's why. So it could be as simple as just identifying where the fad is so the fishing boat can know where the fad is. Or it could be picking up other information that we don't know.
Just you mentioned earlier the Chinese research vessels.
Mhm.
When was the last one? I think I report the one before that, but I don't know. Did we have any this year?
Oh yeah, September was here last month. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I always hear around September. Is there reason for that? I mean, going
That's
back
true,
to the
huh?
reports, it's when they have a lot of fish.
Well, we know that they've been surveying the seamounts. They like the seamounts, so they like to go over that. They also like to go over our cable for some reason. That's also an area that they survey. And they've also named seamounts Chinese names. So this is just, part of what they do. And the good news is that I just came from the Libu ocean exploration that they're going to do. And that's us in Ocean Exploration Trust is working with NOAA, and they're going to map our seafloor, hopefully 10% of our seafloor this time, to help us continue to build a database for ourselves of our entire seafloor and know what's down there. So it's great that we have all these efforts to protect our environment. That's more a reason why we need to make sure that these bad actors stay out of our environment. And so.
Yeah, my question is, did you scan the entire EEZ or just a portion of it?
So on the patrol in September, I believe we probably covered between 50 and 75%.
Wow.
I don't think we were able to get to the entire EEZ during that patrol. I'll have to go back and confirm, but yeah.
Like, do you think you is there probably more, or do you think you got the bulk of the identify the bulk of the?
Yeah, fads. Yeah, that's a great question. I think for the areas we flew, we were likely able to see most of them. I believe we did have really good visibility, and we also have cameras. We can get pictures. So we have a lot of equipment, and that we're pretty confident that we were able to cite most of what was in the EEZ that we covered.
And I think we could assume that with these pads, what they can do is they ping back to the mother vessel who owns the pad, right? It probably tracks how much fish is around the fad. And when they know there's a lot of fish there, they could just come straight into our EZ, quickly catch all the fish, and then get back out. I think that's the danger with these devices, and that's why we need to sync them, because this is a great way to steal, because if you just come in, they're already all there, you catch them, and then you exit before we can respond. I mean, that's to me, that's what I see as the potential. So syncing them, being aware that they're there, important that the C-130 comes down. So is that going to be like 5 times a year, 10 times a year?
So unfortunately, Mr. President, our C-130s, we have a tough time with them as well. We only have a few actually out of Honolulu. So at least our cutters come down from Guam, a little bit closer, but it does take quite a bit to get a C-130 down here to support. We will keep trying.
I think the message today, Mr. President, is, now that we have greater awareness as to the depth of this problem, the breadth of this problem, we, the United States, are more committed than ever in assisting Palau to address it moving forward.
Thank you.
Just one last question, Mr. President. You mentioned, I'm really bad with directions. So you mentioned the surveillance was on the western, to the west, on Navarra. Wait, is Navarra west or east?
No, that's right. West. Alberta West. Westerners, they came from Alberta.
So, that's toward the, I don't know, my west is the Philippines. Is that west?
That's correct.
Yeah. So
I
most
see.
of the fats were in that area.
I
Is that
see.
what you say?
I think I can answer that because I saw some of the data that Susan pretty picked up. The fats are 360 degrees all around Palau. So if you're talking about 100 or 130, they encircle Palau. The largest single number were right there on that Philippines-Palau borderline. So there are more there than elsewhere, but they do go all around Palau's east.
Can you tell us if these fats have been there since ever since they're just now seeing them, or are these sort of new fats that have been planted since then? I guess.
After walang cell surveillance plane, nga mga to kaparal to mesela. Same fly every day. Cell sesna. Sidro ako. En dimlak akmal fatra sel belaw let tablo el piga apertas ko gim tumo badak tulum al afat. After segi del medela nga amla mo to kaparal ul mo kata.
Understand that.
Siya ito.
So just this year stuff.
Oh.
Sulang na malungil yan. And thank you, Ambassador and Commander Warts. And yeah, that'll conclude our press conference. And we have another one on Wednesday, so we can ask more questions on Wednesday. But Ma'am Sulang for coming in on short notice and always being ready. So.
Oh, absolutely.